What's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm Ryan Bitsch, and in this video we are obviously talking about Bitsch Etude number 5. A few summers ago I was doing somebody assigned me an etude. I will learn it in a week just to challenge myself to see if I could do that, and Bitsch number 5 was one of the etudes that was assigned. I actually have a recording of that etude. I'll link it above so you can check it out. This would have been me, a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years ago. And so it's really nice to come back and revisit this etude, not only as a better trumpet player overall, but having just better systems in place to learn these things more deeply. I made the decision on my last video for Bitsch Etude number 4 that I was gonna do these all in one take. So I hope you enjoyed this one take version of Bitsch number 5. I'm really proud of this recording. I think it is very representative of my playing as it is right now. And so again, I hope you enjoyed that performance. Also, as always, I wanna try to provide some value for you so you can get some information for your own practice sessions. And if you're approaching something like Bitsch 5, hopefully these tips I'm gonna share in this video are gonna be able to help you get even more out of your practice. The 3 tips I'm gonna share are: number 1, we need to think about crisp articulation when playing these French etudes. At least that's the way I am trying to approach them. Number 2, we wanna make sure that we get all the dynamic contrast, all of the articulations in terms of accents and things like that to help bring out the character of the etude. And third, we're gonna be going over a sort of method that I have for when I use repetitions to make sure that my practice is both efficient and effective. Let's get into the video. All right, so the first thing for me in this etude is I'm trying to make sure that all of my articulations are very crisp and clean. In general, my playing seems to have always been at its best when playing broad things like Bruckner or some of these really like brass chorale type things. And this more articulate sort of pointed playing has really eluded me. So that's a big reason I'm doing this in the first place, is just to have an opportunity to explore and get better at this particular style. What I notice is that it can be difficult to play short, this really secco style, and still feel like we're connecting our air through all of the line. And so if that's something you're struggling with, I will link the Magic 3 above from my Bitsch number 1 video where I talked about it. It's something I got from my time studying with Barbara Butler. This is a really effective tool to help take like a slurred airstream type thing and bring it into more articulate playing when we want to make sure our airstream is connected. The long and the short of the Magic 3 is you're basically gonna take a passage and you're gonna slur it first. You want to establish good, healthy airflow habits. Then you're gonna move on to the second step of the Magic 3, which is gonna be to play everything quite long. So you're essentially slurring it and just adding articulation. You're not necessarily playing in terms of the style, but you wanna have this sort of connective bridge in terms of, now I know how to coordinate my tongue while playing long. And then the third step is gonna be playing it the way the style dictates, but now that you're actually playing short, you still mentally want to try to maintain playing long so we still feel that your air is driving it, even if it's not actually happening while you're performing the music. Moving on to the second step, we're going to be talking about the dynamics and some of the accents and these other types of markings, and really trying to bring these out so that we can get the character of the etude to really pop and shine. My biggest struggles with this kind of thing have just been in understanding how much of it I need to do. I don't think anybody is thinking to themselves, I just don't care about these dynamics, or I don't care about these accents or anything like that. So I think what's happening is we're just not doing enough of it to really show that we are doing it. So what I recommend, if this is something you've struggled with or you've gotten this comment before, would be to record yourself, but say in your mind, I'm gonna go overboard. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna make sure that I would say to myself when I hear it again, this is out of control, and see what that sounds like. See if your version of out of control is actually out of control, or if your version of out of control is actually, this is enough to make the stylistic and dynamic differences. Moving on to the third point, this is gonna take a little bit more time to explain, but I really hope that it'll help give you sort of a workflow, if you wanna think about it that way, for your practice, so you can think about how to get the most out of it and make sure it's efficient and effective. Because I practice with repetitions and I have, 3 or 4 repetitions per section, per practice session, I need to make sure that I'm getting the most out of it. So what I've eventually fallen into is this method of approaching how I think about the repetitions, and I call it repetition, visualization, and isolation. This is basically an order of operations for me. I first will start by coming up with a very strong mental blueprint, and then I will perform my first repetition. That's the repetition part of this. And ideally, if I've picked a correct tempo, 99% of the problems that I'm gonna face, I'll be fine. I'll be able to perform this at a high level. And so this already right out of the gate is gonna show me where my work needs to be and where I'm already okay and maybe don't have to spend a ton of time or a ton of extra time figuring it out. So I performed my first repetition and I think to myself, a lot of this is really great, I'm happy with it, but some of this is not necessarily exactly what I want. My next step will be to visualize a better blueprint based on the information I got from my first repetition. So I'm essentially trying to think my way into playing better to see if I can just skip practicing the trumpet in terms of actually playing. I'm not lazy in that way, but I would like to be efficient, and so I always go to this visualization step next. Examples of visualization could be simple as trying to hear the pitches in your ear a little bit better, or maybe you're going to try to hear the articulations a little bit clearer, like making a mental picture of what the articulations look like a little bit clearer, or dynamics, or any sort of musical aspect. It can also be in terms of production as well. What is your breath gonna feel like? What's it gonna feel like to release it? Trying to visualize maybe what you're thinking about ahead of time. You're just trying to build an even better blueprint for your next repetition, again, based on the data from the first one. So let's say you visualize and you think to yourself, I've got this blueprint, I'm ready to go. You're gonna do your second repetition and you're gonna see if you were correct. Hopefully the combination of your correct tempo and the very first repetition covering, like I said, 95 to 99% of the problems, this will take care of the last 1 to 5%, and that your second repetition hopefully will be everything you want it to be and more. If after your second repetition, you're still struggling to figure out how something works, something's not quite dialed in, this is when I would pick up the horn and I would start isolating sections to try to figure out if I can actually explore to find a better blueprint. This is when I'm gonna implement things like slowing it down even more, or changing rhythms, changing articulations, slurring the whole thing, the magic 3 like I talked about earlier. This is when I'm going to employ that. And I'm gonna do it because I recognize that I can't focus my way into better playing. I actually need to explore and see what's stopping me and if I can make a better plan. Once you feel confident with that particular plan you made, you're gonna go and put it back into context and perform your third repetition to see if you were correct. Now, ideally, going through this process of repetition, visualization, and isolation, you would have built a proper model for the entire musical section that you just practiced. If I've only have 3 repetitions planned for that day, I'll actually just stop right there and I'll just pick it back up the next time that it's programmed. I'm trying to recognize that it takes time to build in consistency into your playing. So first I'm concerned with building a proper base, and then I'm concerned with trying to make sure that I can progress from there. To give you an example of what this looks like in the Bitsch, every single practice session I have 4 repetitions for each section that I'm working on. And so generally speaking, again, if I picked a proper starting tempo, which is generally gonna be between 50 and 60% of whatever tempo I wanna go, I can usually play most of these sections straight through pretty well. I have a strong enough concept that I can do that. If not, usually it's a focus issue for me. So then I'll go to the visualization and just refocus and remember, oh yeah, I need to blow through that part a little bit more, or oh yeah, I'm just not centered on that note, I wasn't hearing it. Things like that are gonna be a big and an easy fix for me that are consistent. Unfortunately for me in this etude, the repetition and the visualization steps were not enough to get this to a level of consistency that I would be happy with in performance. So I had to isolate some sections, most notably this section that goes up to the high C and then quickly works its way down through the registers. This was difficult for me because I didn't understand 2 things. One, I didn't understand quite how to keep my airspeed moving, which was a magic 3 issue that I solved it with. And then the other was I couldn't really feel the intervals. I wasn't necessarily going down a fifth, or maybe sometimes I was going down too far in terms of what I was hearing. So dialing in exactly how far these intervals are in terms of feel, but also in terms of sound, was a lot of where I spent my isolation work to get this to be more consistent. Using this method of repetition, visualization, and isolation, it really helps me get the most out of my practice to separate what things am I struggling with because I just need to focus a little bit more, and what things am I struggling with because I actually need to sit down with the instrument and explore. And so hopefully this works for you, at least to think about this and maybe even employ in your practice so that you can begin to be efficient and effective in your practice sessions. All right, everybody, that's gonna be all for this video. I hope the performance of Bitsch 5 was enjoyable for you to listen to, and I hope some some of these tips help you get more out of your practice sessions. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like, and make sure you subscribe so that you get updated on when these videos come out if you like content like this. If you have any questions about how I approach etudes or how I approach practice organization, this is something that I do with my coaching, so I would enjoy the opportunity to talk to you to see if we would be a good fit so you can learn how to do this kind of stuff all on your own. Thanks so much for watching the video. Always remember, stay strong, be kind to yourself, never stop growing, and we'll see you in the next video.